Hello, welcome. Welcome to the May episode of Occupy Reports. And today we are all representing We the People, most particularly Western North Carolina, We the People. But We the People, North Carolina, and we have two topics of conversation today. Joan and Avram, me, Ann, are going to discuss the candidates on multiple levels, but more particularly candidates for president who have declared they will not accept corporate donations, which is just really super. And the other topic is the recent publication by the national level Move to Amend, highlighting our little North Carolina We the People organization. So who wants to go first?
Well, I'll introduce the issue of corporate political campaign contributions among presidential candidates. A really good sign, something that is, everybody should be proud of who has been working in opposition to money in politics. Virtually all of the people who are considered major contenders for the Democratic nomination in 2020.
The
Democratic nomination in 2020 for president have declared that they will no longer accept corporate political action committee money.
Super PACs.
PACs.
Any kind of PAC.
Yeah, PAC money from corporations. No dark money, that means, in their campaigns, and it means that they are saying no to large corporations who are trying to influence their vote and their policies, and that includes, of course, we started out with Bernie Sanders, who showed the way on this issue in the 2016 presidential campaign. He wasn't taken seriously at all when he entered the race in 2015, and he said, well, I'm going to be a serious contender, and he matched and at one point exceeded what Hillary Clinton was raising from her wealthy campaign contributors by getting $27 at a time.
$27?
Yeah, and
average.
And obviously that was very popular among voters, and he was a major contender, and many people think he actually should have won that if it had been a fair nominating process. But now that election is over, a lot of other politicians are seeing the writing on the wall, and Kamala Harris 2 days ago announced that she's not going to take any corporate political money from political action committees.
Is she considering running for
Well,
president?
there's a lot of speculation that she is a prime candidate.
She's kind of their darling. They want her to be, because she's a woman. She's not all white. She's got, there's a lot of things about her that would be wonderful if she were to be our next president.
Right,
Okay.
and that's a big issue for her in particular, because in California, when she was the Attorney General of California, she came out very strongly in favor of regulating the banks in California and prosecuting those who had broken the laws. But one campaign contributor, one bank, had made a large donation to her campaign, and she very surreptitiously decided not to prosecute that bank, and never answered the question why. But they know that she received tens of thousands of dollars in donations from that bank, and so she's the last one, of the major contenders who virtually had to announce that she wasn't going to take any more political campaign contributions.
So there's a list of them?
There is. Well, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker.
Cory Booker.
Yeah, and I just want to finish the story about Kamala Harris, and then I'm going to move on to Cory Booker.
Kamala, that's interesting. I've always said Kamala.
Well, that's the way I've heard it pronounced.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
really
sure
actually
you're right.
know. But Kamala Harris, like at a town hall meeting 2 weeks ago, was embarrassed by somebody who asked her the question, are you going to say that you won't take political campaign contributions? And her answer was, it depends. And the person who asked the question interrupted her and said, that's the wrong answer. And
Depends on what?
well, and she started to explain. She said, well, you may think that's the wrong answer, but, you know, I have my, and she gave an explanation of why. And she was booed. She was booed by the crowd for giving that answer. And
Well, yeah, I would have been among those booing for that answer.
right. And so 2 weeks later, she announced, I have changed my mind. And she related the story in telling how she went home that night and thought about it and blah, blah, blah. And she decided from now on, I'm not going to take any more political action committee money from corporations.
Large corporations, yeah.
Yeah. So that was great. I mean, because she was a she's considered a progressive candidate by some, or she's touted as a progressive candidate.
Yeah, she is touted as a progressive candidate.
But she was not willing. But obviously, she had been influenced by political action committee money in the past, and
that will come back to bite her if she does run.
maybe.
Definitely.
But now she's taken a step in the right direction, and we should encourage her, I feel,
Yes.
and say that's a good thing. You know, she has seen the writing on the wall. She's hearing our voices. Okay. Now the second prime example is Cory Booker. Now Cory Booker, another one who's touted as a progressive candidate.
Touted and doubted.
But Cory Booker receives more money from Big Pharma than any other Democratic senator in the U.S. Senate. And we saw the results of that when Bernie Sanders introduced an amendment to a bill that would have allowed Americans to buy prescription drugs in Canada and other foreign countries, same exact identical prescription drugs for 1/6 the cost of what they're paying here in America. There were actually 13 Republicans who voted with Sanders, and most Democrats voted with Sanders, but there were a dozen Democrats who voted against Sanders' amendment, and the amendment lost by 5 votes. So the difference was the Democratic senators who voted against Sanders. Among them was Cory Booker. And it was
so for
obvious.
him to not take any more Big Pharma money would be super.
And he announced that he would not the day after Kirsten Gillibrand from New York announced that she would not take any more corporate
now she's
money.
Also thinking of running for president.
Yes, these are all the top tier.
President.
The top tier now.
Well, I'm impressed.
Of all Democrats in the Senate.
Where did you hear all this?
All you have to do is turn on the computer and look for it.
I will.
Or watch the Young Turks, or watch Mountain Stream TV to know this, and you'll see that what's happening is that they obviously are seeing the writing on the wall. They're seeing the power of the people, folks. This is the power of the people. If we get together and we create enough noise, and if we show that we're going to vote and get out there and not vote for people who take money from corporate political action committees, then you're going to see candidates realizing that money is more of a liability, a political liability to them.
Toxic to the candidates.
That's right. And so they've seen that, and that is the power of the people. When you start getting senators to change their position on an issue like that, it's because of public pressure. And that's what we are exerting right now.
So back to Kirsten, were you going to say more about Gillibrand?
No, but she, again, is another candidate. She wasn't actually ever considered to be very progressive. I mean, she was sort of the archetypical moderate candidate from New York.
Well, she was issues oriented. She wasn't really party oriented. from my perspective, she was not party oriented. She was issues oriented.
Well, she had very
Yeah.
conservative positions on some
Yeah.
issues that, you know.
Now is Elizabeth Warren a viable contender or not?
And yes, absolutely, and she also has refused, of course, for a long time.
Yes.
She
yes,
she,
I
she
think
and
so.
Bernie Sanders were kind of the standard bearers
Right.
on that. So now there are 5 in the Senate, and as I understand it, there are 40 House members who have said the same thing. Now they're not going to
Excellent.
take political action from any money from corporations. Yeah.
How much? How much money comes in the form of the political action? Money comes into, like, just in our state. I heard it touted that something like $6 million was given by the Kochs to one candidate here in.
So the
like
Koch
Burr.
brothers
Well,
have
that's
this
6
national organization, ALEC, the American Legislative
Yes.
Exchange Council, the Koch brothers and other corporate interests. And it goes under the heading of the American Legislative Exchange Council. And yes, they divvy out money to state. North Carolina was kind of an experiment for the Koch brothers and ALEC. They came in with their outside corporate money and took over
big
the
money.
state. And we live in a district which was the prime example of that. Jim Davis, who is our state senator, was elected with an overwhelming amount of corporate PAC money
Yes.
when he was running against John Snow the first time. Typically, the candidates in this race prior to Jim Davis would spend $20,000 or $30,000 on a campaign.
A reasonable amount.
Suddenly, Jim Davis came in with American Legislative Exchange Council money with over $1 million and just overwhelmed the airways with negative campaign, ads, those black and,
And
white
it'll
ads
happen
where
again it'll happen again this
right.
this time in
And that's
November.
and so Snow was caught flat-footed, and there was no way for him to compete with that.
Well, plus gerrymandering didn't help
Well, that district was not badly gerrymandered.
Yeah.
at the time.
Even now,
Even
it
now.
hasn't changed. The state senatorial district.
Oh, Senate. I'm still
The
thinking representatives. Okay.
Well,
Are they the
we're
same?
talking about the state. We're not talking about the federal Congress. You're talking about Mark Meadows. That's the
Yes.
That's the House. But we're talking about the state House and the
okay.
state Senate.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the Koch brothers came in and they took over the state,
state
house and the state Senate. And
they put money actually toward lower down races.
and they did this in 2010, the year that the census was taken and the year that the districts got redrawn. And as a result of that tremendous influx of money and the Republicans taking over the state house and Senate, they were able to draw the districts in the
Okay,
following
that's
year.
what I was getting at.
Yeah.
So that I was, yeah.
Yeah, and they did gerrymander many districts, but this one really was not gerrymandered. Maybe around the edges a little bit, but it's still a
We don't have
contestable
Big
district.
cities with urban areas and that we don't have in the 11th district.
This is not, again, the 11th district is a congressional district.
But it's our area, Western North Carolina.
Western
I'm
North
talking about.
Carolina. So Jim Davis beat Snow in the 50th senatorial district,
Yes.
and Joe Sam Queen retained his seat that year in the 119th House district, but was defeated by Clampett in the last election when there was a Republican wave, when Trump was elected.
A Republican way, yes.
Yeah.
So that's all really good news that those presidential candidates and all those people in the Senate and all those people in the Congress on the national level have said no to
Yes.
PAC money.
Yes. The corporate PAC money, yes.
Corporate PAC money.
And
That's really super.
And then there are the candidates who, and not in those races, but down further, but say, well, I'm going to take corporate money, but it's not going to sway my opinion whatsoever.
Yeah, they're not going to get away with that anymore.
No.
You know, because
No.
people are wise
People,
to that.
yes, yes.
Right.
And
Now,
they may mean that, and it may actually be the case, but it doesn't mean that people will trust them. They may be trustworthy, but it doesn't mean that they will be trusted.
I don't think that they're trustworthy in the sense that
I'm not saying they are or aren't.
They may be
yeah.
sincere in saying that
Yes.
before they get into office, but then when the mafia gives you $50,000, they expect something in return, and that's basically the dynamic of what you're facing. If you decide to take $50,000 donation from a corporate political action committee and you don't give it to them, you're confronting a powerful interest that expected you to do something in return. You know, and so they're kidding themselves if they think they're not going to be influenced by that kind of money.
And I guess then the rejoinder to that would be, we won't take money from them. We will vet the corporations that we take money from.
Yeah, well, that's what they say. Yeah, we'll only take money from interests that we agree with, or something like that.
So that might be viable, but it wouldn't be, from what I'm hearing, that the voters wouldn't think that was a very good idea.
Well, it's an unprincipled position to say that. I mean,
It's unprincipled.
yeah, I think it is. I think that it's the principle that's at stake. You should not be influenced by money if you're an elected public official, regardless of who the money is coming
Well,
from.
there's that.
You know,
There's that because you are judging. You're a good company, you're not a good company, which isn't a very good politician, I suppose, the position for a politician.
and there
to
are
take.
innumerable
Yeah.
situations that can come up, issues that can come up, and you don't know if you're going to agree with that interest when it comes to light, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you're confronted, you know, if somebody wants to take water from a river, you know, for some industrial purpose or something like that, that wasn't an issue when you got elected, but
Now
if
it
that
is.
interest that gave you the money has that interest, yeah, are you going to go up against that interest that gave you $50,000, you know? So that's the issue. You know, it's one thing to get $27 from every person, from millions of people. Then you're not influenced by that money because you're getting it from a whole spectrum of people. But if there's one interest that's giving you an enormous amount of money, then they're going to outweigh the influence over you of all the other people, which is another peripheral issue. I mean, just because these people aren't taking corporate PAC money, that's not the whole ball game in terms of corruption, political corruption.
And money influence.
Yeah, because there are, you know, the CEO of Duke Energy, Lynn Good, you know, so Duke Energy, you might not take money from Duke Energy Political Action Committee proper, but if Lynn Good, as an individual, donates $50,000 to your campaign, it has the same effect, right? And that's still going on.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
What are there any? What's the word? I guess checks to see that their promises are what they sound like they are, or is it just some kind of easy thing to say so that they can then take money in the same for the same reason but through different channels, and we don't take corporate money, but they've received lots of money from the corporate people.
Well, it's a matter of public record, if nothing else. And if individuals donate a large amount of money, it's there for everybody to see.
Every amount of money that you give
Yeah.
to the party or a candidate has to be in writing with
It's
your address.
recorded, that's right.
and that.
No cash. It's got to be a check or
It can be cash, but
no,
it has
can't-
to
it
be
can't.
recorded.
can't be cash.
Well,
Can't be cash. It can be a credit card or it can be a check. You may not. I know this because I was a political candidate 4 times.
our
And-
treasurer takes cash.
What?
Our treasurer of our
Of what?
Macon Democratic Party, but she takes cash. But it has to be.
That's well.
It
That's
goes into an account.
Okay.
It has to be, but it has that
the
cash.
party can maybe take cash,
Every-
but a candidate can't. When you
yeah.
declare yourself as a candidate, you
Oh,
have
okay.
to open a
Oh,
political
that's-
action committee. In fact,
Oh.
and that political action committee cannot take in cash.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a local
Well, we're
thing.
almost out of time. We need to talk about the
Well,
other
Okay.
topic, but
the-
that's really great news.
Well, it ties into the alternative or the fix for getting money out of politics.
Okay.
And when we do get money out of politics, how will people run their campaigns? Where will the money come from to run their campaigns?
From the voters.
Right.
Or donate to them.
Yeah, you get $27 each. From.
Right.
Right. That's,
And but that comes to the
Or
fact.
$20.18.
well, actually, the ceiling is $2,700. That's
Yeah.
that's the most an individual can
Is
donate
that right?
Yeah.
I wondered that.
to any one
Yeah,
candidate.
that's it.
Oh.
At least on
Okay.
the federal level. I'm not sure what it is on the state level.
I don't either. I don't know, but
But that's the most any individual can give to a presidential candidate.
2,700.
Okay. 2,700. But
Yes.
but the average who gave to Bernie Sanders' campaign was $27.
Yes.
27
Yeah.
dot .00, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
But anyway, getting money out of politics is a big issue. It's not only countrywide, but it is here in North Carolina with the We the People movement.
Yes.
So the countrywide movement
Is moved to amend.
moved to amend, and the North
Yes.
Carolina movement is
the,
North Carolina, we the people.
North
We the
Carolina
People
We the People. That's
is similar to move to amend, but it encompasses North Carolina.
Right.
There's a petition that is making its way around North Carolina. NC, WeThePeople.org. And you go onto a site, and with one click, you can get a message to because this now is, we have gotten it to the House and the Senate
of North Carolina.
Of North
The General
Carolina.
Assembly of North Carolina.
Yes. There's it's in the Rules Committee, and you can go on the site and click to send all of the legislators that are on the Rules Committee, giving them the message that we wanted to get out of the Rules Committee and on the floor for a vote and get it on the ballot.
Right.
And what will the ballot say?
The ballot says...
Incidentally, that site is ncwethepeople.org. That's
Yes.
where you go to send a message to all the Rules Committee members.
What did I say?
You said that, but you just didn't say it, didn't emphasize it.
Okay.
NC, WeThePeople.org.
Yeah.
The petition says, "We, the people of the state of North Carolina, respectfully request a proposed ballot measure to be put forth in the 2018 general election to be voted on by the people of North Carolina. The ballot measure, known and cited as the We the People Act, declares that the people of North Carolina support amending the Constitution of the United States to firmly establish that money is not speech and that human beings, not corporations or other artificial entities, are natural persons entitled to constitutional rights." Now, that's the North Carolina petition. There's also a move to amend has petitions going and resolutions going
To the
countrywide,
Congress, yeah.
to Congress, and I forget how many Congress, but to get back to the state one, there are 19 states who have passed resolutions
In some form.
in
yeah.
some form, and we want to be the 20th one. Now the Move to Amend organization just recently, very recently,
Yesterday?
yes, has posted on their Move to Amend site here in North Carolina.
Now this is a national movement, but they posted
A
on
national-
their
yes.
North Carolina level site.
It comes out of Sacramento, California, the National Move to Amend, to call, to ask their petition signers across North Carolina that they should also go onto our site and sign our petition. So that's,
NCWethePeople.org.
yes.
That. All right.
But it's all a movement to get a national. If 32 states have a resolution of some sort on this, and then they can go forward with. I think it has to be it has to be an amendment to the Constitution.
If 32 states want it. Yeah.
Yes,
And we want to be the 20th state.
the 20th states.
Well, not exactly. Okay, what we're doing now is petitioning Congress to pass an amendment. Once Congress passes the amendment, then it takes 38 states to ratify.
Ratify.
the
To
amendment.
ratify it, okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's 32 then?
Then I don't know. I don't think that's anything. No.
Okay, so it's 38.
It's 38 states, which I think is 3/4 of the
Okay.
states.
So if
Yes.
we became number 20, and it were passed, then we would have to ratify it because we've already said we're gonna.
Well,
So they can count on at least 20 states.
probably something
Ratify
like
it,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's a different process. All we're doing
Yeah.
now is petitioning Congress for this. We're voicing our.
We're making
We're
our
voicing our.
voice be known that we
That's
want.
right.
We
That,
want
that's
to
what we
get
want. That's right.
But
money
if-
It
out
doesn't
of
have any
politics.
legal standing,
But if we get
But-
enough petition
but it's powerful.
signatures
Yeah.
and it gets out of the Rules Committee, then it will be on the ballot for 2018, and
If-
individual voters in our
If
state
it goes to the floor and it
can
gets voted
say,
on.
yes, we
Yes.
want this. We want to be the
And
20th state.
since it's May and the legislators are back,
They will be back on May
the
16th.
16th.
So
is
get
it?
on
I
the
was
stick.
thinking it
Go
was the
to
11th.
ncwethepeople.org
NCWethePeople.org.
and do it to it. Because
Yeah.
we want to get this rolling. And
Yes.
thank you so much for tuning in today. We really do appreciate that you came to Occupy Reports. And we will see you next month. And this is Joan and Avram and Ann saying bye for May.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for listening.